So we have two computers. We have this computer that runs OBS and give me all the backgrounds, etc. And I've got the main computer. And I control it all by one keyboard and one mouse and another one. So this one really is not really needed, but I just have it, so I'm using it. But from here, when I press 1 here, this thing controls this computer, yes? And when I press 3 here, it controls this computer. So very quickly I can move from one computer to another one with one keyboard, and the same thing applies with the mouse. I can use this mouse here, or I can move it to here and I can use it here. And you can do things more than that. I can actually have a situation through Logitech that I can just move the mouse and it will know that I'm moving to the other computer, and move the mouse and it will know that I'm moving to the other computer. But the only problem is that because I have so many screens, I have to go all through all the screens and back, so it's not so comfortable for me. So what I'm doing, I'm controlling the keyboard through these buttons because I'm not using the keyboard as much on that computer, but the mouse, which I'm using more, I've got two mouses. This one controls this computer and this one controls this one. One last thing, so I'm using shortcuts, so those shortcuts are helping me to do things that I don't want to do through the touch portal, just by shortcuts. So for example, Control-Shift-P and it will give me my PayPal payment shortcuts, or and it will start PowerPoint, or I can do Shift-H and it will start a specific place on YouTube. So it's something that specifically how to using that specific shortcut program that's called Auto Hotkey. So this is telling me how to use that. Okay, so shortcuts. Okay, so I'm going to set up a webinar. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting my green screen down. If I want to use a green screen, if I don't want my usual background. The next thing I'm doing is, you remember I have the main computer and I have the second computer. So I'm going to the secondary computer, and this is the secondary computer, and we have OBS running here, and here I've got another screen. So I'm deciding on this screen what will be the background, the overall background of the webinar. So I can select here on the touch portal, I can select which background I want, and it will start the background that I want there. So I've selected this one in that case, and I can select, for that matter, any one of the other backgrounds that I define that I want. Okay? So I've selected the background. Here what I have, OBS on this screen have the background for the camera. So I will show you that more, but generally here I have many different options. So I can change here the background to be this, as you can see, my logo, my personal logo, or the company logo, or my personal logo, or a picture, or actually that's an actual video. So this will be the background for my camera. So this will be where I am. Okay, so this is one computer that's running in the background and it's all fine. Now, the main computer. I'm starting the webinar. So I have a webinar here and I'm using in that case the GoToWebinar. Okay, the webinar has started.
Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an organizer.
Okay, so now I've got the webinar started and I will just start the PowerPoint presentation and presentation. So this is the presentation. You'll see that the presentation is here. This is at the teleprompter and I've got the camera going in the background. Now what I will do, the first thing that I will do is, here I'm running another OBS. And that OBS will define what's the setup that I want. So what I want here is, on one side is the presentation, and here I want the chat. I want to show the chat, so I'm putting the chat here on that screen, and I'm getting it to be on the right size. And now I can move to different setups, and the chat will always be here, and here I've got my backgrounds. Hold on one more second. So what I do here, to key out the chair as well, at green, and as you can see, the keying up is perfect. You cannot see that this is actually a green screen operation. It's really perfect, and I can just press a button and it will be the actual presentation. Or if I'm in this mode, I have a different setup where here at the top I see myself, so actually I talk to them, so they will see me. At the bottom they see the presentation, and here is the chat. So I've got my keyboard, I work with the keyboard here, and This is my control. So when I'm working with them, I talk to them and there's a presentation going on, etc. And I want to draw, so I just press here and I say draw. And I talk to them, I still talk to them, and when I talk to them and these comments, I can see the comments here, so there's not much of a movement. I still looking at that direction. And if I want to present it in a different way, let's say I want to do something like that, where on one side here I show the drawing, at the top is the presentation, on the left is the comments, and here they can see me. And if I want to change, if the importance change from the drawing into the presentation, I can press this button, and now the presentation becomes the main thing that I'm talking about, and the drawing as a reference is still there, so they have the reference to what I drew, to what I spoke about. And like that you have a really high quality system. Now, another thing that I'm doing is I'm actually doing something quite amazing. I take this thing there, so this is, if you know PowerPoint, so you know in PowerPoint you can have the presenter mode, and this is the presenter mode here, which tells me what's the next thing that I'm going to say. So in a presenter mode, I can see the next thing that I'm going to say. And here what I'm going to put on this screen is how they see it. So I see it in full screen on how they see it. And usually what I do when I do a presentation, I remove this camera and I put this thing like that. So I can see exactly what they see. So if anything goes wrong, I can see it's here, and I can see the quality, and I can see everything properly. I can say, okay, show them my picture, or my video, I'm just talking to them and they see me. The Atom is doing such a good job of keying out the green screen that the quality is perfect. You cannot see that you are talking about a green screen. Regardless of the background that I'm putting on, any background that I put on, it's like unbelievable quality, the quality of the green screen. You can see it. Amazing. What else I can tell you here? I control everything from here, from the music to the volume to the colors. I can change the colors of my face. As you can see, I press the button and the color has changed. I can make it lighter or darker, more red, more saturation, less, all by press of a button. So everything is controlled through the Atom Mini, and it is quite amazing. So all of this thing is programmed by me. So it's once you know it again, it's really simple. And there's two key programming parts. Number one is the programming of the touch portal. You can see this is the page that I'm using for the live. And each one of those things have programs that are going on, that I've programmed all of these things. Yes. Each one of those things is programmed and I've done it. But this thing is running something that's called macros. And the macros are basically a set of commands that I'm running on the Atom. So it's very easy to write a macro. You basically macros you record. So macros you record. You go here to macros, you say macros, and I can take a place here and click record, and it will record every step that I'm doing. Okay, but this is just the basic, because there are a lot of changes that you need to do. For example, you've recorded the macro and there's something that's not really working as you want, or you recorded the macro, but for example, you'll have a look here. So when I'm moving from one scene to another, you see that it's moving. This thing is not a macro that you can record, it's a macro that you need to create. And how do you create it? What you do, if I look at the macros that I just downloaded, and if I want to do something a bit more complex, I can rewrite things that I want to happen by myself. So I can redefine the sizes, I can move things slowly, so I can actually control anything that's happening on the Atom through that macro. And while it looks complex, it's really not. It's really not. It's quite simple. It's basically each line here is some button or value here, and you just need to know how those buttons or values are called. And if you know how they're called, you can play with the values. It's really straightforward and easy. It's not complicated. And the end result is that I can go into something like that, and let me take this thing, something like that, and tell here, run a macro. So I can run a macro that I've recorded, and it will run the macro once I press the button. So it will do all kind of this and this and then in a second by me pressing a button. So I run one macro, wait a bit, run another macro, and then I say, if something happened, do that. If not, do that. And if this thing happened, do that. So quite simple. Looks complex? Believe me, it's not. Once you understand it, there is not one person that cannot understand it and learn it, because the bottom line is basically telling the system, do this, wait, do that, wait, do that, wait, and sometimes you need to do if statement, which means if this happened, that happened, and a few other things, but it's really simple if you're willing to confront it, if you're willing to look at that and to learn it. Anything that you understand the component parts of, you'll understand the whole. If you feel that something is complex, it's only because you're not willing to learn the component parts, the thing that build the whole. So if something looks to you complex, it's only because you are unwilling to learn the component parts of that thing. And the component parts of things are always simple. Always, always, always.